What if I told you there's a secret hidden in the most obvious place imaginable, the final digit of the year you were born? That this single number is not an accident of the calendar, but a spiritual signature, a code that reveals the echo of your soul's past journeys and the core contract you came here to fulfill, according to a wisdom whispered down through generations of spiritual masters. This last digit is a key. It unlocks the energetic inheritance from your past lives. And knowing this key can fundamentally shift how you navigate your present reality. This isn't about fortune telling or simplistic personality quizzes. This is about a deep, ancient understanding that life is a seamless tapestry of becoming. Monks who dedicated their lives to observing the flow of consciousness saw that nothing was a coincidence. For them, the year you arrived was a direct consequence of your soul's previous chapters. And this was imprinted on your character, the hurdles you repeatedly face, and even the unexplained sorrows you might carry. You don't have to recall your history. It left a map, and one of the most direct markers on that map is the last digit of your birth year. In this journey together, we'll explore how each number from 0 to 9 is a unique spiritual blueprint. Some souls are here as builders, others as healers. Some are settling old spiritual accounts, while others are beginning a fresh cycle with a lighter load. By recognizing the number that has been your silent companion since birth, you'll tap into a deeper current of your being, something you've likely sensed but lacked the words for. This number exposes the hidden architecture of your soul and the lessons your past is still trying to teach you. But first, please take a moment to like this video. It acts as a signal flare, helping this light find others who are also searching in the dark. Subscribe to the channel, as each week I share profound spiritual tools and perspectives that may speak directly to you, and leave a comment telling me where in the world you're tuning in from. I am always moved to see the global reach of this consciousness. Now, take a centering breath. Connect with yourself, because what you are about to hear could reintroduce you to the person you were always meant to be. Before I reveal the spiritual essence of your birth year's final digit, there's a foundational truth you must grasp. In the Buddhist worldview, particularly in the traditions rooted in the Himalayas and Southeast Asia, life is not a single, isolated event. It is a river of consciousness, a current where the spirit learns and evolves through many lifetimes. And every arrival into this world carries the energetic signature of what came before. Everything is purposeful. The circumstances of your birth, the body you inhabit, and yes, the year on the calendar. The most insightful spiritual observers always recognize these energetic patterns. They understood why certain people were born with a natural inclination for peace, while others had a storm inside them. Why some had innate gifts, and others battled recurring fears or traumas with no clear origin in this life. And very often, a seemingly small detail like your birth year's last digit was a starting point, a clue to understanding the path a soul had already traveled and the healing it was now seeking. That is why this is more than just information. It is a tool for self-reclamation. By understanding your number, you're not just learning a curious fact. You are glancing back at former lifetimes, at karmic patterns that may still be influencing you, and at spiritual abilities that lie dormant within you. This number is a symbol, a key, a message from your soul's long journey. So from this moment forward, listen with your whole being. Because as we begin to speak of the numbers, a part of you might stir, as if an ancient memory deep within your soul recognizes a truth it had simply forgotten. Let's begin with the first number. If the last digit of your birth year is 0, understand this is profoundly significant. On the spiritual path, particularly in the most ancient Buddhist traditions, the number 0 is the great cosmic paradox. It is both the origin and the destination. It represents the sacred emptiness, the silent space from which all creation emerges, and to which all things return. For the wise ones of Tibet, a 0 is the mark of a soul that has come back to the starting line of a new grand cycle. It signifies those who are rebooting their spiritual hard drive, after lifetimes that were perhaps intense, filled with great suffering, disconnection, or straying from their true path. To be born under the sign of 0 means your soul is undergoing an energetic reset. This suggests that in past lives, you might have been weighed down by profound regret, lived at the mercy of emotional extremes, or lost touch with your spiritual center. This new incarnation is life's gentle invitation to you. Wipe the slate clean, start fresh, build anew. It doesn't matter what came before. What matters is that you are now at ground zero, a point where the debts of the past no longer have power, only the space to create with intention. People with a 0 in their chart often feel like their lives take time to gain momentum. They experience long periods of looking inward, of questioning, of deep internal reconstruction. They are the ones who often encounter life's great pauses, a health crisis, a major loss, an abrupt change in direction. This is not a curse. It is the universe turning down the volume on external noise so you can learn to build from a place of consciousness, one brick at a time. These souls are incredibly sensitive, quiet on the inside, yet they possess a wisdom that cannot be taught because it is forged in the fires of deep time. Buddhist masters believe that those reborn with this energy are here to recalibrate balance and recover their personal truth. These are souls born to simplify, to heal ancestral patterns, and to sever old karmic loops. The 0 is not an energy of repeating the past. It is the rare opportunity to write a completely new story. This is why, at some point, these individuals feel an overwhelming urge to shed old identities, break away from inherited narratives, and create something that has never existed before, be it a new lifestyle, a new venture, or a new self. Beneath this energy is a soul that has witnessed a great deal. In past lives, it exhausted its need for drama and now seeks substance. It's common for these people to have very little patience for superficiality, mind games, or chaotic people. They crave peace, simplicity, and silence, and often, without knowing why, they feel a need to withdraw or feel like outsiders. This is not a flaw. It is the soul in a state of sacred transition, stepping off the automatic wheel of karma and deliberately choosing a new way. The primary challenge for those with the number 0 is not to mistake the emptiness for nothingness. Because this energy represents the absolute beginning, many feel they are starting with no map, no tools, no direction. It is natural to feel adrift. But it is precisely in this sacred void that the power resides, because the 0 is the fertile ground from which any reality can sprout. The soul that learns to see this reset as a gift, not a punishment, gains access to a spiritual liberty that very few ever experience. If you have the number 0, your life is not meant to be a sequel to the past. It is designed to be a conscious creation of the future. But this can only happen when you stop trying to fit into pre-existing boxes and begin to trust the quiet voice within. You did not come here to follow a script. You came to redefine, to quiet old static, to realign your family's energy, to pioneer a new way of being. And the most beautiful part is that, consciously or not, you are already doing this with every choice that breaks a pattern. With every cycle you decide not to perpetuate. Remember, the 0 is the point of all beginnings. It is the silence in which the Buddha awakened. It is the sound of the universe before the first vibration. And because of that, it is pure, unlimited potential. If this is your number, your soul has handed you a blank page. Use it wisely, live authentically, and know that you are not empty. You are the space where everything is about to be born. If the last digit of your birth year is 1, your presence here is no accident. In the ancient spiritual traditions of Buddhism, this number signifies a soul that has returned with a mission already activated. It means that in previous lifetimes, you underwent profound journeys of learning, and now you carry an energy that initiates, directs, and manifests. The mark of the 1 is a sign that you have come back to earth with a purpose that is online, not just to exist, but to be a trailblazer, to launch new ideas, and to catalyze transformation. Your very being is a call to action, and wherever you find yourself, something new is waiting to begin. In esoteric Buddhism, The one is the first ripple after the void, the moment consciousness decides to leave silence and express itself in form. This energy is not passive. It is focused, potent, and has a sense of urgency. People with this spiritual frequency often feel from a young age that they are here for a reason. Even when they can't articulate it, they are restless, moved by an internal engine that never shuts off. Even if they try to blend in, sooner or later they discover they were born to lead the charge, not follow the crowd. This is not about corporate titles or authority. It's a spiritual leadership, an invisible force that manifests in your choices, your resolve, and your courage to defy convention. You came to this world to do what hasn't been done. This could be creating a new model for living, building a family dynamic different from your own, pioneering a unique method at work, or even starting a personal healing journey that those around you have been too afraid to begin. The number one carries the spark of creation itself, but this mission comes with a significant weight. Often, the world is not prepared for those who step out first. This is why people with the number one encounter so much friction. From others, from circumstances, and even from their own self-doubt. You might face criticism, misunderstanding, loneliness, or a persistent questioning of your own abilities. This is all part of the path of the pioneer. The world pushes back against the new until it proves its necessity, and you will need to believe in your vision, even when no one else does. According to monks from the oldest traditions, this type of soul often experiences moments of dramatic upheaval, where everything they have built seems to crumble overnight. Relationships, careers, family dynamics, everything can feel precarious. But this is never random. The universe is constantly course correcting you, pulling you out of situations where your soul's energy is being squandered. Because a number one soul is not meant for stagnation. When you accept this, you see that endings are merely new beginnings in disguise. Your power lies not in clinging to what is lifeless, but in the courage to start again with greater wisdom. Another critical lesson for those with the one is mastering the ego. People with this energy can be tempted to control outcomes, to insist on being right, or to shoulder every burden alone. But the truly evolved spiritual leader with the number one is one who learns to guide with humility, who listens, collaborates, and empowers others. A balanced one doesn't need to be the loudest voice in the room. Their power comes from their example, from their integrity, and from the audacity to move forward, even when they are the only one walking. You have probably realized you cannot tolerate environments without growth, relationships that don't evolve, or routines that suffocate your spirit. That's because your soul craves construction, challenge, and purpose. When you deny this, your energy stagnates, and you may experience symptoms like chronic fatigue, frustration, a feeling of being trapped, or even physical ailments. Your spirit is designed for expansion, and if it cannot expand outward, it will turn inward, often leading to self-sabotage, anxiety, or emotional turmoil. But here is a truth you must never forget. You were chosen to be the first domino. Life entrusted you with the most difficult part, the beginning, and that alone speaks to the strength of your soul. You don't need to see the entire staircase. You just need to take the first step, and by doing so, you illuminate the path for everyone who follows. The number one is the first light in the darkness, the breath of courage in a world paralyzed by fear. And whether you see it or not, your existence is already forging new paths, simply because you chose to be unapologetically you. If the last digit of your birth year is 2, there is a quality within you that the world probably never gave you a name for: a silent knowing, a razor sharp intuition, a heart that acts like a sponge for the emotions around you. And that is not an overstatement. Buddhist wisdom teaches that souls with this energy return to this life with a sacred mission to mend what has been fractured. You came to this world to unite, to soothe, to bring balance, and to foster understanding. But before you can do this for the world, you must learn to do it for yourself. And that is your first great challenge. You feel everything, but you've been taught to pretend you don't. From a very young age, You noticed the unspoken truths in a room. You could feel the emotional weather of a place the moment you entered. You knew when someone was hurting, even if they were smiling. You felt deeply about things others dismissed as trivial. Perhaps you were often told, "You're too sensitive, don't be so emotional," or "It's not a big deal." But what no one understood is that your sensitivity is not a flaw, it is your superpower. The world operates on the surface, and you perceive the depths. The world builds walls, and you feel through them. This is your nature, and it is a rare gift. Souls with the vibration of 2 are like spiritual tuning forks. They resonate with the pain around them, even if it's hidden. And because of this, they often become the emotional caretakers of their families, friends, and communities. They are the ones people seek out to feel heard, understood, and less alone. But the paradox is that those with the 2 often feel profoundly lonely themselves. Because while you are holding space for everyone else, who is holding space for you? Ancient Buddhist monks taught that those who return with the number 2 carry a karma of relational healing. This suggests that in past lives, you may have experienced relationships defined by separation, betrayal, abandonment, or a painful lack of connection. In this life, you came to heal those bonds, starting with the bond you have with your own soul. This is why you frequently attract people who are broken, complicated situations, or emotional turmoil. Your soul is trying to learn how to love without disappearing, how to offer compassion without sacrificing your own well-being. You have likely felt that you are always in a supporting role, that you give far more than you receive, that you swallow your own needs to keep the peace, that you have forgiven things that still cause you pain, that you have accepted less than you are worth to avoid being seen as difficult. This is all part of your learning curve. But it is also a sign. Those born with the number 2 must learn that compassion without boundaries is a form of self-betrayal. Your mission is not to erase yourself, it is to be a bridge. And a bridge does not have to break itself to allow others to cross. You also possess a powerful, quiet gift, the gift of harmonization. You can change the energy of a room just with your presence. You de-escalate conflict, bring a sense of calm, and offer empathy, often without saying a word. Your presence itself is a form of medicine, and even if people don't acknowledge it, they feel it. You have the gift of water. You are adaptable. You flow, you find ways around obstacles. But you can also feel like you're drowning if you don't honor your own capacity. When you learn to wield this gift consciously, you become one of the most powerful healers in existence. But the number 2 also carries a caution. Do not lose yourself in the service of others' comfort. Your soul requires silence, beauty, and replenishment. You must learn to nourish yourself as fiercely as you nourish others. The key for you is balance. The moment you start saying no without guilt, the moment you learn to let go of burdens that are not yours to carry, something fundamental shifts within you. And that is when your true power emerges, because a balanced 2 doesn't live for others. It lives in connection with others, without losing its own center. If this is your number, then know that you are not alone in this task. Thousands of souls are now awakening to this same call, to heal our relationships, to restore self-love, and to bring empathy and deep listening back into the world. You are one of them. And even if the path feels solitary at times, every act of compassion you offer, especially to yourself, is precisely the work you came here to do with grace, depth, and authentic love. If the last digit of your birth year is 3, know this: you carry an inner light that is designed to be seen. But you may have spent a long time trying to hide it. Many people with this vibration have gone through life feeling that they are too much. They have too much to say, too many feelings, too many dreams, too many ideas, and they learn to censor themselves. But according to Buddhist teachings, the number 3 is the soul that returns to give voice to what was silenced, to transform emotion into art, and to alchemize pain into creativity. You came here to shine, even if that means you sometimes have to wrestle with your own shadows to do so. The 3 represents the energy of creative and emotional expression. People with this number have a natural ability to connect with others through their words, their art, their humor, their very presence. They possess a vibrant, often youthful energy that is magnetic and uplifting. But behind this brightness is often a soul that has known profound darkness. And that is precisely what makes the number 3 so powerful. It is the soul that can smile while acknowledging pain, not because it is naive, but because it understands that suffering does not have to be the final word. Buddhist masters say that souls with this vibration often had past lives marked by suppression, lives where they were not allowed to be themselves, where their voice was stifled, where their creativity was dismissed. In this life, the soul's mandate is clear: be seen, be felt, be heard, share. You no longer have to hide your feelings or try to squeeze yourself into molds that were designed to diminish you. Your soul returned to create, and it doesn't matter how. Whether through art, communication, humor, or just your unique way of living, you've likely felt misunderstood, been called dramatic, intense, or overly emotional. And perhaps because of this, you learn to swallow your words, mask your feelings, or put your dreams on a shelf. But the number 3 soul suffers when it is silent. Your healing is found in expression. When you write, sing, paint, share, or simply speak from your heart, something powerful realigns within you. You begin to remember your true nature. You begin to come home to yourself. It is common for these souls to have faced rejection, whether in childhood, relationships, or their careers. This happens because the light of the 3 can be unsettling to those who are disconnected from their own. But that is not a reason to dim your light. It is a sign to shine even brighter. You came to this world to demonstrate that it is possible to live with authenticity, joy, and depth simultaneously. Your unique expression is your power. Your truth is your mission. When you stay silent, the world is robbed of the unique medicine you came here to offer. Another vital point, the 3, is the energy of the inner child, not in an immature way, but in the purest, most spontaneous and creative sense. You have an ability to see magic in the mundane. You can laugh at your own mistakes. You can turn ordinary moments into treasured memories. This is a sacred gift, but life will sometimes try to harden you with criticism, trauma, or loss. And that is where your true challenge lies: to keep your heart open, even when the world is telling you to shut it down. You have a channel of healing within you that activates through expression. Whether you are speaking, creating, or inspiring, you touch people in ways you may not even realize. When you share your truth, others see their own truth reflected in you. And that is where the alchemy happens, when your vulnerability becomes a bridge and your old pain becomes a source of liberation for yourself and for those who witness you. If the number 3 is your vibration, never let anyone silence you. Never shrink your light to fit into someone else's shadow. You did not come here to fit in. You came to expand, to turn words into medicine, art into truth, and emotions into connection. And even if you still doubt your own power, the truth is undeniable. The world needs your unique way of feeling and expressing, now more than ever. If the last digit of your birth year is 4, there is a strong possibility that you are the person everyone relies on when life gets chaotic. And that is by design. Ancient Buddhist wisdom states that the 4 is the energy of structure, the soul that returns to life to provide support, order, protection, and to rebuild what is broken. It is the vibration of the unseen foundation, the one who doesn't appear in the spotlight, but without whom nothing could stand firm. You may never have felt particularly glamorous, but that's because your value lies in a strength that is quiet, steady, and profound. Souls with this spiritual signature often had past lives marked by instability, chaos, or a lack of security. They know what it feels like to live without solid ground beneath their feet. Consequently, in this incarnation, they return with an almost primal need to create order, safety, and reliability. From a young age, these individuals feel a sense of responsibility, a feeling that they must be strong, that they cannot afford to fail, that they must always be dependable. And so they end up shouldering immense burdens, often without even realizing they are carrying the weight of everyone but themselves. You are likely the kind of person who works when others are resting, who stays calm when others are panicking, who is terrible at asking for help but is always the first to offer it. And this creates a subtle trap. You become so skilled at enduring that you forget how to live. Your soul is so dedicated to the mission of holding everything together that you often neglect your own need for care. The number 4 is resilient, but it is not unbreakable. And behind that stoic exterior is a heart that yearns for ease, for rest, and for appreciation. Buddhist monks taught that the 4 is the number of spiritual discipline. But it's crucial to understand that discipline is not the same as rigidity. It is consistency guided by wisdom. People with this number can be intensely self-critical, striving for perfection and control at all costs. But the great lesson for the 4 in this life is to learn that not everything is your responsibility to fix. There is a sacred order in imperfection. You do not need to manage every outcome, especially those that are not yours. Your mission is to build, yes, but it is also to learn to trust the process. You may feel that you never have time for yourself, that there is always another task, another problem, another person to attend to. This may stem from a soul-level belief that you are only worthy of love when you are useful. But that is a profound untruth. You are worthy of love even when you are doing nothing. You are deserving of rest, of joy, and of lightness. When you begin to grant yourself this permission, the 4 ceases to be just a structure for others and becomes the foundation for your own life. And that is when your strength truly flourishes, with balance, without stiffness, without burnout, without constant self-pressure. There is a quiet dignity in you, a wisdom that comes not from books, but from the daily practice of showing up. Even when you are tired, you are the kind of soul that transforms chaos into order, fear into a plan, and despair into a practical next step. And though it may not be said often enough, the world around you holds together because you are in it. Even when you are unseen, even when you are silent, even when you feel alone, you are the bedrock. You are the safe harbor. The challenge of the 4 is not to become too rigid, not to close yourself off in the habit of carrying the world without asking for support. You need to remember that structure is meant to be a support, not a cage, and you have a right to spontaneity, creativity, pleasure, and peace. Your soul is ancient and capable, yes, but it is not here merely to work and protect. It is here to live with presence. And your presence, even in its quietness, is one of the most powerful forms of healing there is. If this is your number, know that your mission is vital, but it does not have to be a solitary one. By allowing yourself to be seen, to ask for help without guilt, and to accept your own vulnerability, you discover a new kind of strength, one that comes not from effort, but from trust. You do not have to carry it all alone. You have already proven your strength. Now, perhaps it is time to build a life that also supports you. If the last digit of your birth year is 5, you have likely felt this truth in every fiber of your being. You were not designed for a cage. It doesn't matter if the cage is a place, a relationship, a job, or even a belief system. If it restricts you, your soul begins to wither. Buddhist masters viewed the number 5 as the embodiment of the air element, free, fast, intuitive, and intrinsically linked to movement and change. But this gift of freedom comes with a challenge, a tendency towards instability. The soul that returns with the 5 desires to experience multiple lifetimes within this single one. And that can be both your greatest asset and your greatest chaos. People with this spiritual vibration are natural explorers. They have an insatiable curiosity to learn, to experience, to discover, and to challenge the status quo. They are the ones who always ask, but what if there's another way? What if I don't want the same things as everyone else? From a young age, the 5 questions authority, challenges assumptions, and senses that there is a bigger world out there, something more to life that needs to be experienced. This can make you appear restless, inconsistent, or even unreliable to others. But deep down, your quest is for truth, for expansion, and for authentic living. Souls with the number 5 often had past lives characterized by restriction, confinement, or monotony. They may have been forced to conform, to follow a rigid path, or to live a life that was not of their own choosing. In this life, they have returned with an energy that fundamentally rejects being boxed in. And that is why the 5 is so connected to revolution, not just societal, but personal. These individuals are in a constant state of evolution, and sometimes even they don't understand why. But behind the constant change is a soul seeking its own authentic frequency, a soul clearing the cellular memory of confinement from past incarnations. But this freedom is not without its pitfalls. An unbalanced number 5 can get lost in perpetual motion, changing jobs, partners, and locations constantly, starting projects but never finishing them, chasing the next thrill without ever being present in the now. And this can lead to a sense of emptiness, disconnection, anxiety, and a feeling of being constantly in transit, but never arriving. The profound lesson for this soul is this: true freedom is not the ability to do anything you want. It is the ability to be fully present wherever you are. And it is this inner stability that the 5 most needs to cultivate. This is why relationships can be such powerful teachers for those with this number. You have likely felt a fear of being trapped, a fear of losing your identity in another person, and you may have bolted before even giving it a chance. But the soul of the 5 craves deep connection, even if it resists it. You were not born to be alone, but to learn how to be free within partnership. When you grasp this, you stop running and start building, not something rigid, but something that honors your need for movement, while also grounding your roots in truth. Another key aspect of this energy is versatility. People with the number 5 are multi-talented. They are quick learners, highly adaptable, and can reinvent themselves with ease. But often, they feel lost precisely because they are capable of so many things. The spiritual mission here is to channel these diverse gifts in service of a higher purpose. When you find a clear why, something you deeply believe in, all of this scattered energy comes into focus, and you become an unstoppable force for change, a transformer, a consciousness raiser, a liberator of minds. Ancient monks would say that the 5 is the soul of the wind, light, swift, unpredictable, but capable of moving mountains with its invisible power. That power, however, requires direction. When you find your inner alignment, everything shifts. Chaos becomes creativity. Impatience becomes inspiration. Escape becomes conscious choice. And you become what you always were, but perhaps never fully owned, a guide to new possibilities, a breaker of invisible chains, and someone who came to show the world that there are other ways to live. If this is your number, embrace your freedom, but do not use it as a way to run from yourself. The world needs your movement, your energy, and your questioning spirit, but most of all, it needs your presence. To be fully where you are. That is the true liberation of the number 5. When you understand this, your soul stops chasing freedom and starts embodying it. If the last digit of your birth year is 6, there is a quality in you that is impossible to fake, an almost sacred impulse to care for the people in your life. From a young age, you may have felt a deep sense of responsibility for the happiness of others. Perhaps you stepped into adult roles prematurely, absorbed pains that were not yours, or learned that you were loved most when you were being helpful. This was not a coincidence. According to Buddhist masters, the number 6 represents souls that return with a mission to restore and embody love in the world, beginning in their immediate circle. This is a beautiful mission, but it is also a difficult one, because those with this vibration did not arrive with a light and carefree soul. They came with a soul rich with the emotional memories of past lives. These are individuals who, in previous incarnations, may have experienced profound loss, abandonment, betrayal, or situations where they were unable to protect the ones they loved. In this life, these souls return with a deep, often unconscious, vow to never let anyone down again. And this, without your awareness, places you in positions of extreme giving, where you frequently find yourself caring for everyone except for yourself. It is very common for people with this energy to attract unbalanced relationships, people who need rescuing, or situations where you feel you must constantly prove your goodness and loyalty. This happens because the 6 has a nurturing light that is magnetic, but also a tendency to dissolve its own boundaries for the sake of keeping the peace. Your greatest spiritual challenge is not learning how to love. It is learning how to love without losing yourself, without trying to fix people, without taking on their karma, and without turning love into a form of self-sacrifice. True spiritual love begins when you include yourself in the circle of your own compassion. You have probably been the confidant, the advisor, the rock, the foundation for many. You have likely held your own pain in silence so as not to burden anyone. You have made choices that were painful for you just to avoid conflict. And all of this demonstrates the vastness of your heart, but it also reveals how it has been wounded by not feeling worthy of receiving. Those with the number 6 must learn that true love does not require you to diminish yourself for it to exist. It begins with self-respect, and it flourishes in truth and balance. The energy of the 6 is deeply connected to the concept of family, not just the one you were born into, but the family of souls you create. You have a rare gift for forging deep, meaningful bonds, for making others feel safe, seen, and cherished. But you may also feel that you are always the designated, strong one. The soul of the 6 carries a sense of duty that, when unbalanced, can feel like a prison. You do not need to save everyone. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to be on call 24/7. You simply need to be authentic and to offer yourself the same grace you so freely give to others. Ancient Buddhist monks said that the number 6 carries the karma of service through love. This means the soul came here to develop the emotional maturity to love with freedom, not from a place of need, codependency, or guilt, but from a place of conscious choice. This is why your relationships may feel intense, confusing, and challenging. They are all your teachers, helping you discern between love that confines and love that liberates. Your mission is not to have perfect relationships, but to evolve through them. You also have a powerful healing gift. You may not be aware of it, but people feel more at ease in your presence. Your energy is soothing. Your touch can be therapeutic. Your words offer genuine comfort. This gift is ancient. It comes from past lives where you learned to nurture, protect, and sustain. But now, it is time to turn that healing energy inward. If you do not care for your own energy, set clear boundaries, and prioritize your own well-being, this gift becomes a source of exhaustion, and an exhausted soul cannot truly heal anyone. You deserve the same love you give. Start by giving it to yourself. If this is your number, know that you are not here to love less, but to love with greater wisdom, with balance, and with presence. Do not feel guilty for your desire to care, but do not accept less than you offer, either. The world needs your tenderness, but you need your own truth. And when these two forces find harmony within you, something profound happens. Love ceases to be an effort and becomes your natural state of healing grace. If the last digit of your birth year is 7, you have likely felt, at some point, like a visitor on this planet. Perhaps you've looked at the world and felt a sense of disconnect, as if something is fundamentally off with the way things are, or worse, as if something is off with you. But the truth is the very opposite. In ancient Buddhism, the 7 is the number of the sage, the observer, the old soul who returns to earth with a different kind of mission, to seek the truth that lies beneath the surface of reality. People with this vibration are naturally introspective. They choose silence over small talk, depth over superficiality, and truth over appearances. Because of this, from a young age, they may have been perceived as different. Perhaps you found it difficult to fit in, or were seen as quiet, reserved, or lost in your own world. But what few people understand is that your inner world is a universe in itself. You observe everything, you process deeply, you feel the undercurrents of life, and that is an energetically demanding process. It requires solitude, time, and spiritual focus. The soul of the number 7 often carries the echoes of lifetimes spent in contemplation and search, in monasteries, in temples, in nature, in ancient schools of wisdom. These are people who are monks, mystics, scholars, and healers. And in this life, they return with a thirst for meaning that cannot be quenched by ordinary achievements. You have a deep need to understand, to connect the dots, to find the underlying principles that govern existence. And until you find that connection, you may feel a persistent sense of emptiness that no worldly pleasure can fill. But this depth comes with a challenge. Because the more you see, the more you recognize the illusions of the world, and this can lead to feelings of loneliness, cynicism, or a quiet melancholy. The 7 is the number of the sacred question, of doubt, of a healthy dissatisfaction with easy answers. This is why many souls with this vibration experience profound periods of crisis, existential, emotional, or spiritual. But what feels like a breakdown is actually a breakthrough. You are not falling apart. You are waking up to a deeper reality. Another defining characteristic of the number 7 is a natural spirituality. Even if you don't adhere to a specific religion, there is an innate sense of connection to something greater within you. Perhaps you find it in nature, in meditation, in study, or in art, but that connection is your lifeline, and it must be honored. When you disconnect from your spiritual path, from your inner quest, everything else in your life can start to feel meaningless. Because the soul of the 7 did not come here for a mundane existence. It came to touch the unseen and to bring that wisdom back into a world that has fallen asleep. It is vital to understand that with this number, your purpose is not to be popular. Your purpose is to see. And because you see, you will often be misunderstood. Your questions make people uncomfortable. Your silence makes people uncomfortable. Your clarity makes people uncomfortable. But that is part of your path. You are not the problem. You are the mirror. And not everyone is ready for their own reflection. Learn to stand firmly in your truth, even when the world around you feels shallow. Depth is your natural habitat. You may have experiences of knowing things without knowing how you know them, of intuitions that turn out to be true, of feelings that no one else seems to understand. This is not your imagination. It is your heightened spiritual sensitivity. The number 7 is the number that pierces the veil, that senses, that perceives beyond the 5 senses. And when you begin to trust this inner guidance system, your life begins to align. The answers you seek start to appear, the right people show up, the truth reveals itself, and you realize you were never lost. You were just looking for home in the wrong places. If this is your number, embrace your quest. Honor your need for meaning. Do not settle for anything less than authenticity. And remember, you did not come here to fit in. You came here to awaken, even if that means walking a solitary path at times. Those are the same paths walked by the great souls who, in other lifetimes, were also guardians of the invisible. You are one of them, and the world needs your clear vision, now more than ever. If the last digit of your birth year is 8, you carry one of the most powerful and dynamic energies. This is the signature of souls who return to Earth with immense strength, ambition, and a destiny that involves leadership. But contrary to popular belief, this is not just about material wealth. In Buddhism, the number 8 represents the path of mastery through the balance of the spiritual and material worlds. It is the number of instant karma. What you put out, you get back, and for you, it often comes back faster and with more intensity than for others. Your soul came here to learn how to wield power. But before you can lead the world, you must first learn to lead yourself. Souls with this vibration often have past lives where they engage with power on a large scale, be it material, political, social, or spiritual. Some used this power with wisdom, while others fell into imbalance. As a result, in this life, you may experience dramatic highs and lows, great successes followed by great setbacks, unexpected windfalls, and sudden losses. Nothing in your journey is lukewarm. This is because the 8 has come to master the energy of responsibility. When you act with integrity and awareness, Opportunities flow to you with incredible speed. When you act from a place of imbalance, things can unravel just as quickly. The universe is constantly giving you direct feedback. You likely feel a powerful drive for autonomy, independence, and accomplishment from a young age. You might be the kind of person who has never been comfortable taking orders, who has always had a vision for how things should be done. That is part of your calling. You came here to carve your own path, but this same drive can make you a perfectionist, controlling, or impatient. When things don't go according to your plan, you can become frustrated, feeling like you are never doing enough. The great spiritual lesson for the soul of the 8 is that true power is not found in control, but in flow and balance. Perhaps you have been through situations where you lost everything: money, status, security. And in those moments, you may have wondered, why me? The spiritual answer is profound. The 8 carries a karma of recalibration. The universe will strip away the external to show you that your true worth lies in who you are, not in what you possess. The soul of the 8 needs to be reminded that power without wisdom becomes a prison, that success without purpose is hollow, and that you have nothing to prove to anyone. Your strength is inherent, even when everything around you has crumbled. You also have a natural gift for strategy, management, and bringing visions into reality. People with the number 8 know how to turn an idea into a tangible outcome. They possess focus, resilience, and courage. But at the same time, they must be careful not to become too hard on themselves or on others. Not everything in life needs to have a purpose. Not everything needs to yield a result. The soul of the 8, when it reconnects with its spiritual side, begins to understand that the greatest success is the one that brings inner peace, not just outer applause. Another strong characteristic of this energy is its magnetism. You attract people, opportunities, and challenges at maximum intensity. And sometimes, you take on burdens that are not yours simply because you feel you are the only one capable of handling them. This is common for souls who were leaders in past lives. But in this life, the invitation is different. You came to lead with heart, with empathy, and with presence. You do not have to be ruthless to be effective. You do not need to command to be respected. Your true power emerges when you are at peace with yourself. Buddhist monks would say that the number 8 is like fire. It can provide warmth and light, or it can consume and destroy, depending on how it is directed. And that is a perfect metaphor for your spiritual journey. You have immense energy, vision, and capability. But you must constantly ask yourself, to what end? What truly matters? When you find the answer to that question, everything shifts. What was once pressure becomes purpose. What was once struggle becomes surrender. And what was once karma becomes liberation. If this is your number, understand that you came to this world to achieve great things, yes, but not at the expense of your soul. Success with purpose, power with compassion, and ambition with awareness. That is the true path of the enlightened 8. And when you find that balance, there is no limit to what you can create, both within and without. If the last digit of your birth year is 9, then you are the type of person who often feels an inexplicable emotional exhaustion. You possess a sensitivity that is difficult to articulate and an empathy that can feel almost painful, as if you are carrying the weight of the world's sorrows within you. In a way, you are. In Buddhism, the 9 represents the soul in its final stages of the cycle of rebirth, a soul who has lived countless lives, experienced every possible human role, and has now returned with a singular purpose to be of service to evolution, both for themselves and for others. You may have felt, since you were a child, that you saw things others didn't, that you felt things too deeply, that you could sense the truth behind words and the intentions behind actions. This is not your imagination. It is your spiritual inheritance. The number 9 carries a highly refined intuition that often cannot logically explain what it knows. It simply feels it. And this gift can become a burden if you do not learn how to protect your energy, because the soul of the 9 is a magnet for confessions, pain, and cries for help, as if others intuitively sense there is something different about you. And there is. Souls with this vibration have lived lifetimes of profound learning. They have been the victim and the aggressor, the leader and the follower, at the pinnacle of society and at the very bottom. So, in this life, they return with a broader, more compassionate perspective. But this also means you often feel like you don't quite fit into the world. Trivial conversations exhaust you. Superficiality irritates you. And above all, you have an immense, driving need to do something truly meaningful, even if you don't yet know what that is. It is common for the soul of the number 9 to experience significant losses, abrupt endings, and painful goodbyes. This is not a punishment. It is karmic completion. The universe is constantly teaching you the art of letting go, of releasing, of closing chapters. Because your mission is to evolve beyond attachment and to guide others in doing the same. You are like the healer who bleeds with the wounded, who feels another's pain as if it were your own, who has a hard time saying no, because you understand the depth of others' needs. But herein lies your greatest challenge. Do not confuse compassion with self-sacrifice. You are not here to carry the world on your back. You are here to inspire the world with your presence, your deep listening, your calm, and your wisdom. You are someone who, with just a few words, can shift the energy of a room, who possesses a quiet maturity that can be mistaken for aloofness, but is in fact depth. And those who lack that depth will not understand you. And that is all right. The 9 does not need universal understanding. It just needs to remember the rarity and purpose of its own soul. Another strong trait of the number 9 is the tendency to put everyone else first. You help, you support, you understand, you forgive, and often you do not receive the same in return. You may even have developed a certain weariness with the world, a quiet sadness. But this is the moment for that to change. Your healing starts when you learn to turn that immense love and compassion back onto yourself. This is not selfish, it is spiritual integrity. A soul as ancient as yours requires silence, rest, and space. It needs to learn to choose itself without guilt. Buddhist masters say that the 9 is the number of transcendence. That is, the soul is no longer here to compete, to prove, or to accumulate, but to release all that still binds it to the cycle of suffering. This is why paths like meditation, spirituality, art, and humanitarian service are so essential for those with this energy. You find relief when you are helping, creating, or connecting with the sacred. And it is in these moments that you remember who you have always been, long before this lifetime. If this is your number, understand that you are a closing chapter, a point of transition, an old soul who has returned to heal, to inspire, and to bring ancient stories to a conclusion. You do not need to be loud. You do not need to be in the spotlight. You simply need to live with truth, with grace, and with love. And when you do, everything around you is transformed, because your energy is not forceful, but it is profoundly revolutionary. Now that you have discovered what the last digit of your birth year can reveal about your soul's journey, you might feel a subtle click inside. Perhaps it is a quiet sense of validation, as if a part of you that has always felt misunderstood has finally been seen. Maybe you heard a description and thought, "That is me, it has always been me." And that is no accident. The deepest truths of the soul do not arrive with a thunderclap. They announce themselves in a shiver down your spine, in a moment of stillness, in the quiet recognition that feels more like a memory than new information. You have just touched something that was already stored within you, waiting for the right moment to be awakened. These numbers are not magical in the way we usually think of the word. They do not dictate your future or put you in a box. They are spiritual keys, keys that can unlock rooms inside of you that you may have forgotten existed. And now that you hold this key, the most important question is not whether you believe it, but what you will do with what you have felt. Because this journey does not end here. It begins now, with new awareness, with deeper curiosity, and with the courage to live your truth more fully. And maybe, for the first time, You have a framework for why you feel the things you feel, why you are drawn to certain experiences, why you are moved by things that others do not understand. These are not explanations that come from the mind. They come from the soul, and the soul speaks in the language of symbols, of intuitions, and of small signs, like a single number in the year of your birth. This video is not meant to be a final answer. It is an invitation, a call to begin listening more deeply to the person you were before the world told you who you should be. If this resonated with you in any way, I ask for 3 simple but powerful actions. First, like this video. It is a signal to the digital world that this kind of content has value and deserves to find other souls who are also seeking. Second, subscribe to the channel, because here you will find more messages like this one, crafted with integrity, respect for your spiritual path, and the care that your journey of self-discovery merits. And finally, leave a comment below sharing where you are watching from. It may seem like a small act, but this exchange of energy connects us across the globe, and you never know whose heart might be touched by seeing a kindred spirit in the comments. Remember, you are not alone on this path. There are countless other souls waking up at this very same time, and if you have listened this far, it is because you are part of a wave of consciousness that is beginning to remember its origins, to heal its past, and to build a new way of being. You have a vital role to play in this, a role that may seem small in the grand scheme of things, but is immense in the vibration it contributes. Every single soul that awakens is a light that is switched on in the collective darkness, and today you have brightened your own.